Welcome back to the Sales Pulse podcast, where sales isn't about scripts, it's about fluent human conversation. I'm Marla Koupal, your sales conversation architect. Last week, we cracked open the idea of defensive selling. When your good intentions go sideways, remember that mattress store story that I told you? The salesperson was polite, even friendly, but she defended the product and herself instead of discovering what we needed. Defensive selling often sounds kind and helpful, and yet it kills the seller's curiosity, and they never learn anything about the buyer. It replaces listening with explaining. So you have to ask yourself, why are you afraid to listen? Today, we're diving into part two. What causes salespeople to be defensive? We'll also look at when you catch yourself sounding defensive and how to recover gracefully before you lose that sale. When does defensiveness creep into a sales conversation? It doesn't start with words. It shows up the instant that you feel the buyer is pulling away, questioning your product, or comparing you to someone else. So first you have to wonder why you're thinking that way. Maybe the buyer says, "That sounds expensive. I need to think about it. My friend sells something similar." And suddenly your pulse changes. You feel your value being challenged. You feel the value of the product being challenged, and you jump in to explain. Well, before you explain, "That sounds expensive," you have to decide, what are your assumptions? Just ask, "Oh, what makes it sound expensive?" So don't be defensive. That's the urge to justify your worth, prove your product, or protect your ego. That does nothing to set up a relationship or a conversation with your buyer. The irony of this whole situation is when you defend, you stop listening. And all you have to do is listen to open up that sale. The buyer's question or statement may not be rejection at all. It might be curiosity, but maybe they say it in an odd way. Always question, stay away from your defensiveness. So your instinctive defense gets in the way of just being curious with the buyer. The buyer's question may not be rejection at all. Be curious, discover what's behind the question, and turn what you think is resistance into a working conversation. Don't react because maybe it was not something to react to. The moment you feel you need to fix someone's thinking, that's your cue to pause, not to pounce. So there's 3 common defensive moves and what to do instead. Let's break them down. One is the over-explainer. This one floods the buyer with features, tells them everything, tells them about their personal experience, tells them about the last 5 customers and their experience. Well, buyers might be saying, "Hey, I don't need all that detail until I really have the experience." In my case, I got too much detail before I could lay down on the bed. It took 15 minutes for me to test a bed that I thought I wanted to buy, but she thought I needed to know 15 minutes of information before I could even try it. I don't respond to details unless I've had an experience. So what's your buyer all about? Do they need to see it or do they need to feel it before you give them any more details? So here's the lesson. Stop teaching, start testing what they need. Like, what prompted you to consider this option? You'll find people will tell you what they value right up front, and they don't have to drown in your information. Let the buyer lead the conversation. Defense number 2 is the prover. This seller takes everything personally. They hear, "My friend found one cheaper." And they instantly defend, "Well, ours has better quality and ours does this and ours does this." Now, did they ever even ask what other product the person was speaking about? You're walking yourself into a tug of war here. What you want to do is agree before you explain. You might say, there's probably some things I need to learn about the information you're coming in with. There are a variety of options out there. Tell me about the details your friend gave you so that I can maybe work up a comparison and a contrast situation for you to really balance out your choice making. Now, that's a lot of words, but what it does is it allows the buyer to take control again, and you're going to disarm them and take down their resistance. But you know what? Resistance doesn't disappear until you lose yours. And then the third problem is for defense is the rescuer. This is the helpful hero who jumps in to solve what the buyer hasn't asked to be solved. You sense hesitation and you start convincing them to feel confident. You'll be great at this. You'll love it. But they weren't asking for reassurance. They were processing their thoughts. They needed some quiet time. Maybe they need more information. Don't give anybody attaboys when they're buying unless they ask for it. So here's the fix. Let people have their quiet space. If somebody goes quiet, let the silence breathe. Give them the chance to say something first. Or if you're getting nervous, you might say something like, it sounds like you're thinking it through. Let me know when you want me to move on. That moment of respect will earn you more trust than any pep talk you could ever give. So now let's look at how you reframe your defensive selling. First, you need to realize you're reacting. What you want is responsive mode, and you can only get that when you are truly curious about the person in front of you. You want to remain neutral, meaning you don't have an opinion one way or another about what they said. You're going to be willing to ask a question about what that means to them when they ask that question. If you're reacting, you have an emotional trigger. You still got some fear of losing the sale or thoughts that they won't buy. Your desperation starts showing through. So this is a reactive space that takes you away from being present for the buyer. Be careful about those times that you feel defensive because you know that is a showstopper for a sale. But how about starting out a question with, tell me more after someone shares a thought and you can tell it's an incomplete thought, then ask them to tell you more. That allows them to give you more details so that you know which direction you'd like to take and you don't accidentally build a wall of proof and information that they don't need and that could drive them away. Build that bridge of understanding. So here's some samples. What made you curious about that? What made you say that? What are you comparing it to? What would make this feel right for you? Each question will reset the energy of the conversation. It moves the focus from your defense back to their decision making, to their choices, to where they'd like to go with this conversation. So here's 3 quick habits that can turn defensive selling into connection. Reflect before you reply. Say, what I hear you saying is, and then let them answer you. Make sure that you have all the nuances correct. It'll slow you down and it'll speed up their trust. Let the buyer choose the pace of the conversation. Number 2 is ask permission before diving deeper. Would you like a brief overview or more detail? Like if the person at the bed store had just said to me, would you like to lie down first or would you like me to tell you about it? Well, I would have said, I'd like to lie down first. I don't want anything. I need an experience before I'm going to absorb information because that's how I am. That single question could have turned the conversation cooperative. Now, yes, our person got the sale, but not because she was a great salesperson. It's because we were ready and we tolerated it because my husband had more patience than I sometimes do. In this particular case, I needed proof before I had a partnership with her. And end your sentences with curiosity, not conclusion. You might say something like, does this align with what you were hoping for? Buyers will lean in when they're feeling like you're being their guide instead of guarding your own self and trying to push information on them. If they've been very positive throughout the conversation, you might say something like, it sounds like you're saying this might work for you. Tell me more. You're guiding, and they will make up their own decision and walk themselves into the purchase. As always, I want to leave you with a challenge for this week. Catch yourself once, just once, when you feel that defensive feeling coming on. Pause, breathe, and ask one more question again, preferably an open-ended question. And you'll notice two things. Your tension drops and the buyer opens up. That's fluency. It's not persuasion. It's not pressure. It's just the rhythm of real connection. Now, if this episode hit home, share it with someone who's still trying to prove their worth in every sale. I'm Marla Koupal, the Sales Conversation Architect, and this is the Sales Pulse podcast. Bold sales, one clear, curious conversation at a time. See you next week.